Good evening, good people. Thank you so much for joining us. You are watching another episode of Top Stories, and I am your host, Chip Van Gundy. Listen, it has been a crazy week in the world of politics, sports, current events, a number of different things. But if you are aware of politics or American culture, pop culture here in the country, then you are well aware of the probably the biggest news story this week, and I'm going to take a little time to talk about it. Is the assassination of a popular conservative activist, the talking head, Charlie Kirk. We're going to be talking about who exactly Charlie Kirk is, and we're going to dive in just a moment here. We're also going to be talking about tonight the endorsement that Miss Mary Sheffield recently received and what that means for her opponent. Those are the two main things that we're going to be talking about. Now, I want to just jump right in. We have taken some time here to the smoke is kind of beginning to settle. The assassin, the alleged assassin, has now been comprehended, and so now we're going through the process of really trying to kind of understand and prescribe motive here. And so that's where we are as of today. But I kind of want to I kind of want to just take this thing from the top, and let's imagine as though you don't know Charlie Kirk. Because here's the thing: I knew of Charlie Kirk, but once this happened, I realized that I didn't really know Charlie Kirk. Let me really quickly just point out two things that I didn't realize I knew about Charlie Kirk until his unfortunate passing. I didn't know he was married, and I didn't know he had children. And so, however much I've heard him speak, it hasn't been about his wife and kids. It was so weird. I didn't realize that. I guess I was kind of asking myself if I was a fan or if I was a listener of Charlie once this, kind of wondering how I should feel, when I heard about it. And I realized I didn't even know he was married or that he had a wife. I thought he was still a young, just a young person who was really going in his career. Nevertheless, I'll say that to say that I've heard Charlie speak, and we're going to get into a couple of some of his quotes here in a minute. I've heard Charlie speak, but in this new age of social media, hearing someone speak in clips and hearing someone speak in long form are two different things, and it's kind of difficult to really have an opinion or an assessment of someone. I knew that was going to happen. It's kind of difficult to have an opinion or an assessment of someone that is accurate if the only way that you're really hearing them talk is in clip form. And I don't think that we have taken the time to really understand that there is a difference there. I can hear okay, you can hear someone talk, you can hear 10,000 clips of someone and still not understand the full context of any of their conversation, right? Unless the clips are all from the same conversation, then you might be able to piece it together. But my point, like, you get what I'm saying? Like, that's not that doesn't typically happen. We over time we hear people speak and say things, and of course you formulate an opinion. And so, in just a few moments, I'm going to be sharing my opinion. But I guess I'm kind of prefacing it by saying I don't think I've ever heard Charlie speak in long form. And when you hear someone speaking long form, then you get the full context of what they're saying. You can take what I've said. I've only been doing this very video for 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And you can cut and splice the things that I've said and play it back and create this compilation of me saying things that sound far more insidious than what I'm actually saying in this moment. But without the context, that is a lot easier, a lot more prevalent. You see that a lot more. And so at least I have the wherewithal to understand that, yes, I've heard him speak a lot. I've heard Charlie speak a lot. I'm not necessarily a follower of him. I didn't even know he was married. I didn't know that he had children. And I also know that I haven't heard him speak in long form. And I know that in the age of social media, those are two different things. And I hope that you realize that as well. You don't know, like, you don't know this man. You don't know these people online. We don't know them, right? We don't really know them, particularly when we have only. I want you to ask yourself that now. When I've heard these people that we like, these people that we dislike online, have I heard them or have I formulated my perspective of them based on clips? That's possible. You know what I mean? Like, we live in that day and that age now where you can formulate an entire opinion about someone just based on 12 or 30-second clips. Imagine that. And you formulate an opinion about someone that's good or bad and it's inaccurate. That's possible. But nevertheless, I am adamant. Or should I say, I'm an advocate of following the evidence and keeping the same energy. And I can say, with that fact in mind, I've certainly heard Charlie Kirk say some things I don't agree with. I want to just kind of get that out the way. I want to get all the easy stuff out the way. And I believe when you kind of establish the easy things and establish the context, that gives us the best opportunity to really have a good faith conversation, because you see me making concessions. Because a lot of people hate him, a lot of people love him. Okay? So let's just address the negative so that we can have a constructive conversation about maybe what his life and maybe what his movement and maybe what his assassination represents, instead of he was evil, he deserved it, or he was a child of God, he did know, you know what I mean? Like, what's wrong with you? You know what I mean? I think the common sense is kind of somewhere in the middle. But in order to get there, I want you to hear me acknowledge the obvious on both ends of the spectrum. He's most certainly said some inflammatory things, to the point that I would almost consider Charlie Kirk an provocateur. I would almost consider him someone who was a provocateur. If you're just joining us, please like, share, subscribe. You know the routine. We're in the social media space, and so you don't have to give us any money. You can just share the content, and it really kind of means the same thing, right? It lets people know that we're having a valuable conversation. That's most important. Um, we're talking about Charlie Kirk and who he was and who I understood him to be. That's what we're talking about, so that we can have a more in-depth conversation about what his life, death, and his mission kind of represented, what he was doing, etc. So we've established that Charlie Kirk is a right-wing activist. Okay, we've established that he is a provocateur. He goes out of his way. He understands media, and he understands how to be inflammatory to the degree that it'll make news. That you've got to kind of be able to do that. You've got to be catchy enough. You've got to be offensive enough. You've got to be thought-provoking enough. You've got to be loud enough. You've got to be crazy or unique enough to make news. Logical, rational, monotone conversations, particularly about things that people are very passionate about, just don't make news like they should, and they should. But that's not the world that we live in. And so he was in part a provocateur. He knew how to say things and make digs and move his bones, and in doing so, he spoke with an overwhelming amount of confidence. And to the parts that impact me the most, I can't say that I liked his sentiment about, this is my take on what I heard Charlie say. And I heard him speak a lot about like racial and crime and the black fatherhood. I didn't feel like when you understand someone to be intelligent, you hold them to that. And as it pertains to the lived experience, the black experience in modern America, let's just say, you know, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond up until present day. You know what I mean? Like the history in my little narrow mind that really, really, you know, should be talked about the most, right? Um, Charlie, I knew him and he had established himself to be too intelligent to not tell the full story and the experience of why black people were in the conditions that they were in. And I didn't really feel, and I'm putting this out in the open space, and so hopefully I can be corrected or acknowledge, someone can inform me about this, but I didn't, I wasn't certain that, that his disposition and the sentiment that he shared about the black experience was one that was inviting to his cause, right? And again, I want to acknowledge the part that is kind of obvious because I want to get to the other part that is oftentimes lost, but we got to just get out of this. We got to get these out of the way. I think he was inflammatory. I think he said things that were less than welcoming, even to people that were independent thinkers, or dare I even say a conservative. I think that I think that he was a confident person that spoke with a degree of confidence that could be mistaken or that could have downright been arrogance. I don't know the guy, and it wouldn't behoove me to prescribe his motives in any direction, good or bad. I'm not certain. I'm not certain. But what I do know is that he was provocateur. I didn't feel, you know, uninvited to his movement, but I didn't feel like I was his target audience per se. But he was also he was also a part of. Boss's call in part two in just a moment. Like, share, subscribe. We'll be back. Fatherhood is more important than what's happened. But we'll talk more about this in just a few moments.